Hello, I'm Derek Miller, presenting from ProMat in Chicago. I'm a senior account executive with Hy-Tek Intralogistics, and today we're going to talk about scaling operations with robotic systems. We'll talk through the current state of the industry, what we're seeing and hearing from our customers, and we'll review some robotic applications that we're utilizing today in order to scale our clients' operations. So first, Hy-Tek Intralogistics, we are a material handling solutions provider. Capabilities are ranging from the very front end with consulting engagements all the way through turnkey solutions design and implementation of robotic systems. We have teams that are dedicated specifically to understanding the industry and the market of what's out there and managing our key partnerships with robotic vendors. And we take a lot of pride in our ability to understand their technologies and how to apply it in creative ways to solve problems. Myself personally, I've been in the industry for a little over 8 years at this point, and I've done everything from solutions design all the way through implementation, always being focused on robotic platforms. So it's a very exciting time to be in the industry. For those of you that aren't here, we look around and it's no longer going booth to booth and just investigating different conveyor loops that turns out just end up moving boxes around. What we see around here right now is a robotic revolution, right? The robots are coming and taking over. And so why is that? Well, right now robots are far more capable and reliable and most importantly affordable than they've ever been. And when we couple that with a high demand on the labor market, it makes the projects with robotics a lot easier to cost justify moving forward, right? And we're certainly seeing that with our clients. And Peerless Research Group did a survey in 2022 of distribution companies. And what they found was that overall, around 92% of companies that participated in the survey are already in process or are considering a robotic solution within the next 2 years. So that means just 8% of people that participated in the survey did not have robotics on the roadmap. We dive a little further to see where these customers are looking to apply the robotics, and largely we see picking and sortation driving the use cases, with replenishment as a distant third. So we'll talk about why we feel like those two areas are kind of primed for robotics applications. When we first sit down with a customer, we usually ask, where exactly do you feel the pain within your operations? And naturally the first response is everywhere, everything is broken. Eventually we breathe a little bit, get them to kind of dive a little deeper into what that means exactly and get to the actual root cause. So on the right, you'll see probably the 6 most common responses we get to that question in terms of what is it you would like to solve for. And at the core, I think more or less what it really comes down to is people trying to do more with less and remaining flexible while they do it. If we rewind back to 2020, as we're all sitting in Atlanta and COVID is about to come to the forefront of this country and wreak havoc on our supply chain. Overnight, we had shifts in shopping habits, inventory shortages, and to the next day we have 6 months of inventory showing up at our docks in one day. Right? So operations was feeling pain from not being able to adjust fast enough. So how do we scale the operations in order to remain flexible and deal with these kinds of basically what is the new normal, right? And the obvious answer is robotics. And the conversation has shifted from how do we reduce our resources to how do we supplement what we have and grow with our existing resources. And what we're finding primarily is that a large portion of the opportunity is really around solving for the picking aspect. There are robotic solutions for every aspect of the warehouse. We only have about 20 minutes today, so I'm going to really focus in on how to improve the picking process in your facilities. I think first it's important to understand the different levels of picking solutions that are out there. So we range everything from persons to goods, where these robots travel with or to associates in different pick zones of the warehouse. They're very quick and easy to implement. You can scale by adding more robots into your existing facility. The downside with these is that they don't really do anything to solve for any storage constraints you may have. So it's a quick, easy win on picking rates, but no help on the forefront of storage. So if we take a step up to shelf level goods to person, now we've taken walking out of the process altogether. We're bringing forward complete racks to operators who are going to pick from specific locations and put it into whatever order tote we might need to put it into. This does help alleviate some of the storage constraints because now we can take these racks and store them in an extremely dense area. But you can notice because the operators have to pick from the shelves, we're not utilizing a lot of our vertical cube. That's when we get into the dense storage goods to person. And at this point, we're no longer bringing racks of product forward. We're just bringing one select bin. So we've improved our picker's efficiency by taking some of the thought away from the pick, right? I'm presented with one bin, I'm going to pick it and put it, and then the next bin's going to come forward. And because of that, we're also able to utilize a vertical cube within the facilities. Some of these technologies are the Exotechs and auto stores of the world that are capable of storing product up to 40 feet and really utilizing that true vertical cube within the facility. And finally, we have shuttle goods to person systems. One difference between dense storage goods to persons and shuttles goods to person systems for me is the ability to scale throughput and storage independently. And the dense storage goods to person system, you're able to do that, but when we talk about shuttles, if you want to get more out of it, typically you're talking about adding another aisle, which requires more storage and more product, and typically it involves more fixed infrastructure around the solution, such as conveyor to take a tote to multiple pick stations. So when we sit back and look at a potential application for improving picking methodology, one of the first things we're going to look at is what are we picking and how are we picking it today? An operation that has 5,000 active SKUs is going to have a very different solution than one that has 50,000 active SKUs, right? And part of what we're driving at is a cube velocity, especially with goods to person. We want to avoid basically taking all of our efficiencies that we gain from picking and then turning around and spending it on replenishment labor at that point, right? So we're going to be monitoring what we're going to be putting in these systems so we're not touching something in to then just turn around and touch it back out, right? So your Pareto really matters. Some of the other things we want to talk about is future proofing, right? And so when we look at these solutions, there's two aspects to consider. It's throughput and storage. And in my opinion, the best technologies have the ability to scale them independently for the most part. One thing that I think a lot of people overlook is a robotic density factor. And what I mean by that is when you want to move more product, most people think just put more robots in the system. Well, it's similar to being out here on I-90 when we want to move more people and we put more cars on the road. We end up with a big traffic jam, right? So we kill a lot of efficiencies. So one of the things we will do on the front end is really pay attention to our footprint that's available and how much product we want to move through the system so we don't immediately design into a corner day one. Similarly, within the facility, you want to make sure you're being cognizant of where you're putting your storage solution to be able to expand that should you have a SKU expansion or need to hold more inventory inactive. And here in the graphic, you can kind of see a good example of how, with the right solution, you can scale those two things independently. Another way we can really look at utilizing robotic platforms to increase our pick rates is by moving to a batch and sort operation. Similar to picking technologies, there's a lot of varieties within the industry right now in terms of what these solutions could look like. We have robotic put walls that are also very quick to deploy and easy wins. They take a pretty relatively small footprint within our facilities, but that means they also come with a smaller batch size, meaning maybe we're not improving the pick efficiency as much as we possibly could by looking at 150 to 250 orders versus allowing our pickers to pick to closer to 1,500 orders, let's say. And that's where something like a tabletop sorter comes in. A tabletop sorter also has the ability to scale its throughput and destinations independently, again with the whole caveat around robotic density. We have to have enough table space for the robots to move around and complete the sorts, right? And then finally we have floor level AMR sorters. These are the largest capacity sorters, often looked at utilizing for partial sortation, but can be used for large unit sortation as well. but they are probably the least economical of the group when we consider unit sortation. So when we consider sortation problems, one of the first things, similar to picking, what are we sorting, right? That's what we want to look at. What are we sorting and how much are we sorting of it? And we're going to be very cognizant of our rates, and we're going to be sizes and weights as well. And the biggest thing we want to look at when we look at moving to batch and sort is paying for the extra touch, right? Balancing that overall labor equation within the facility, right? So our picking efficiencies must improve enough to then justify having added labor to do sort induction and manage sort walls. And that's one of the things that I think really drives the size that you need to scale the sorter for in terms of your batch sizes. Other areas that we can really look at for easy wins within batch and sort is, what are we sorting to? Do we have the ability to sort directly into a shipping carton? In a lot of cases we do, and maybe it's just one or two sizes, but maybe that accounts for 60 to 70% of your carton usage. So we can really work on trying to identify areas of the operation that have a large similarity between them, right? So if you do have a heavy mover of a shipping carton, let's look at a way that we can potentially ship or sort right into that. Finally, past picking and sortation, I did want to at least touch on a few other applications and the ability to pair the technologies together, because I think this is really one of the most exciting parts about where we are today in the industry. So if you came to me and said, hey, I implemented a goods-to-person system, but all I've done is really increased a bunch of labor on my replenishment factor. I have people walking through reserve racks and bringing full cases over to the decant area, and that's really undoing any of the savings I'm getting on my picking. Then we can start to look at pairing some more traditional technologies like case-level mini-loads, where we can convey those cases automatically over to our decant stations. Or we'll take it a step further. We're actually implementing a project now where we have the ability to take 50% of the master cases, pull them from a mini-load, and run them through a robotic case cutter and induct it directly into our goods-to-person active picking, right, without adding any labor on the front piece. Similarly, if you already have a goods-to-person system and you've kind of hit capacity, you feel like there's no room for expansion within that system, and you want to do more with less, one way you can do that is by marrying a sorter up to the goods-to-person system, and you can see that in the picture here in the top right. We actually have a tabletop sorter married right to an induction or a pick station for a goods-to-person system, where that operator is going to pick now to 1,500 orders on a presentation. So why that's important? In a traditional e-com goods-to-person application, you're going to pick maybe 1 or 2 units per presentation out of your system if you're picking to discrete orders of, say, 4 orders. So those robots are just constantly driving presentations through our system, but what we need to do is increase the amount of units we can pick on a presentation. So if we picked 1,500 orders at once, maybe we can get to 5 or 6 units picked on a presentation. And what we've done is taken and multiplied our capacity of our goods-to-person system by 5 or 6 times. And in often cases, we are finding that ability to decrease the demand on the goods-to-person system is actually paying for the sorter and the extra touch right off of the bat. Some other opportunities to pair within existing systems are robotic piece picking. We'll touch on that here in a second. There's a lot of improvements being made within the industry for robotic piece picking. We also have the ability to marry pallet shovels along with case level shuttles, right? So maybe you have some SKUs within your operations that you want to maintain at the pallet level, but you also want case level picking within the same system. There are some technologies out there today where you can see in the bottom right the ability to marry those 2 types of solutions together in one system. Other applications that are easy wins for facilities, AMRs, right, to eliminate forklift traffic. Perhaps we can consider areas of your facility where there's a little bit lower human traffic to allow the robots to kind of move freely. Robotic packaging equipment is another big opportunity. Again, if we can look at a large portion of your orders that can maybe go and justify into a carton wrapper if we have consistent uniform product size, or maybe being able to utilize automated carton erection for several different sizes of your cartons. Finally, a lot of people ask, what's next within the industry? Where do you see it going? And there's a couple of places I see it. One is definitely the pairing of different robotic platforms together to make a more efficient system overall. But also, I think the next big win is probably within robotic unit and carton movement. So where we're at right now, it used to be that the end-of-arm tool was a big challenge for people in handling the different varieties of cases or units. That seems to largely have been solved as we look around, and vision systems are kind of the next big piece, and that also, there's a lot of players now that have seemed to tackle that problem, and really where we're at is just making it more affordable at this point, right? It's kind of the whole life cycle of product development. So I think in time, those technologies will start to become largely more affordable. And so when we talk to clients about what it is they should be doing to future-proof their facilities, we often tell them that they should be leaving room for the robotic arms. So. Okay, well, I think that is everything I have today. I want to thank you all for the time and taking the time to join me. And yeah, thank you.